Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Hope everyone's okay. Hope everyone is good. Um, yeah, sorry about mixing up the times and just changing last minute, but you know, family. So that's currently where we all are. Yeah, I wish I was in Dubai right now. I can promise you. So I'm going to very quickly talk on Bank of Japan, just because we've been talking about it for the last 3 weeks. So the thing happened. So we'll very quickly talk on that. Then we're going to jump straight into the charting. And I'm just going to chart what we see rather than any kind of speculation in terms of what may or may not happen following Japan. So let's just quickly jump into it. As we expected, the policy rate for Japan has gone up, as every man and his dog, including myself, has talked about for the last week, but a couple of weeks, I suppose. This could have implications because of the global lending portal is now slightly more expensive to do that, and risks of carry trade unwinds, etc. Go back to Tuesday or even some from last week. And this could now absolutely play out, and that's something that we've got to be careful of. And I mention this because I've cropped this, I hope, well enough so it doesn't copy out. So I woke up this morning to this message, and 7:26 guessing the carry trade didn't amount to much. And the point that I made here is, well, it was only announced an hour and a half ago. I think we really need to wait for London and New York opening times, and I think we're just in a world right now where it's like, if something doesn't happen immediately, we have to automatically discount it, when the reality of it is this was announced at the back end of the Asian markets, and before both London and New York had opened. So we may have to wait even a little bit longer because it is a weekend after all, but we should at least give things to play out. So I put those shorts in just in case we did see a dump. We didn't. I woke up this morning, I closed them, $100 loss. It is what it is. But I think we've got to give it a little bit of time. And I sent these next images to this person that sent me that as well. And they weren't doing it to be, annoying or to have a little sly dig at me. They would. I feel they would. We're quite close. They were generally sort of asking the question. But the reality of it is, I've just taken the last two carry trades, and this is all I'm really going to necessarily talk about it. I've done these the wrong way around, so you'll have to just bear with me. On the left-hand side is January 2025, when they announced the rate increase from 0.25 to 0.5%. And the arrow, this is the hour, okay, that it was announced. And at the time, Bitcoin was at 102, 103,000. And just look what happened, okay? It rallied immediately afterwards, okay? There was a rally afterwards, soft rally on volume and everything else, but we rallied approximately 4%. And then we went stagnant. Why did we go stagnant? Because the markets closed. We started to dip down towards the end of the markets, and then Saturday happened, Sunday happened, wake up Monday morning, or actually when the markets opened Sunday night, and boom, we saw the final drop, okay? So just because something has been announced doesn't necessarily mean it's there. And think about market makers. Think about, all the things we've talked about for years in terms of like how they want to play this, okay? It's already priced in, so bang, we'll move the price north. Everyone gets excited about it. We get moved down. And I'm not saying that's gonna happen this time, but we just got to be aware of it. So be patient to see whether or not that's happened. We have kind of positioned ourselves a little bit ahead of time, certainly with the Tau, so it's given us some leeway there. But think about it. And then you go to August on the right hand side here, similar kind of thing. So we're on the hourly time frame back in August. This was on Wednesday the 31st. It's hard to tell when they actually announced it. So I am doing this with pinch of salt, because they don't do like in America where it's a bang on 7 o'clock every night. It's just after they have a meeting, they just go on to press conference and they announce it all. But it's between 2:30 and 4 a.m. UK time. So here it is again. And so this was when it was announced. We saw the market rally up over the next couple of hours. Only 2% this time. It was 4% last time. And then, New York opens. We get a bit of time in New York, and then boom, market starts to move down, and then it continues. Okay. And this one was obviously a lot more. It happened first. It was sort of the shock that they've actually gone to 0.25%. So it had a much bigger drawdown from it. And we see that happen. So, but again, there was a move up beforehand. And this is what I was just trying to say. We have had a move up. Everything has moved up at the moment, but I'm not really buying it just yet until I see what actually happens, volume and price action when New York opens. And I'm not doing this because I have to defend that position. Absolutely not. This is not a hill that I'm going to die on, but I'm just aware that, because the news announcements come out doesn't mean there's not going to be volatility before the fall. And last two occurrences, we've seen exactly that. So we've got a few hours until the market's fully open. We've got an hour until we start to form that Brinks box, and we can kind of see what pre-market is doing a bit clearer. And yeah, we'll have a better understanding from it there. That being said, let's actually get into some charts on what we can see and what we do know. And I wasn't on the trading pub yesterday, but I did watch it back last night, and I thought it was very interesting. The very first thing, the charts will always tell you what is happening. That's the reality of where we live right now, and that is so true. We can hope and we can wish and we can hope for lower prices to get in. We can hope for higher prices to make some profit, but the chart will just tell us what's happening, and that's the best indication we can actually have as to where we currently find ourselves. And so that's all we're going to have a look at. And we can look at Bitcoin at the moment, 3-day time frame. I'll put it on the bigger so we can see it a little bit better. And actually, 3-day time frame, we're just not smothering. We bounced off this support 86,500. Not a bad move. Currently in the lower section between 86 and 93, and 93 is a level that we need to penetrate, for want of a better term. But yeah, not too bad. The other thing you can actually say at the moment is this potential that's forming, and we're going to explore the W formation, the bottoming pattern a little bit later on, but we've seen it similar on this kind of scale, and we know what's going to come afterwards. So there is an absolute argument that can be made that we have continued to find that bottom, and I think the only way that's unfortunately going to be confirmed is the breach and the hold above 93,000, because otherwise we're just still within that range. But the promising signs that we get from it, certainly on the 3-day time frame, is the fact that actually this last candle today, it went down, or last night actually, 84,000. It was slightly higher than this candle here, 84 dead, which is end of November. And then the big drop on Friday the 21st, which took us down to basically 80,000, it's obviously stayed above that. So we are at least building higher highs for now. Still a day to go on this candle, but all things aside, looking fairly good right now. Go on to the others. Bitcoin just had a better day yesterday and the last couple of days than the rest. So we're seeing dominance ticking up, but we're in that no man's land. If we're below 60 and above 57, it's really hard, or 58, sorry, it's really hard to kind of see. I'd actually say 57. Sorry, I need to blow this up because I'm in the way. We're not really getting any clear picture of where we may go from this. So I need to see break to either to the north. So let's just mark out 60, about here. And then 58, I was saying, but I mean, 57's down there. Let's just say 58 for now. Don't want to make this box too big. If we're inside this box, it's really difficult to really say that there's any clear direction going in one way or the other to help towards alt season or a Bitcoin season. The alt season indicator is flashing like 11 or something, so it's pretty low. It means we may get that move up. But right now, that's currently where that one sits. This is just in the way of the thing. Okay. Moving that along, total two, I'm in two minds, because there is an argument again for a nice little double bottom here, but the difference here, unlike on Bitcoin, is this leg is actually, we've created a low beyond the one that I talked about at the end of November. We've actually come down. We are technically ever so slightly higher than what we got on the 21st of November, but it's pretty darn close. So until again we see that monster strong bounce and actually through that $1.25 trillion level, I'm just not that pumped on altcoins right now. That's my honest opinion on where it sits. And if we go to our Lord and Savior BitTensor, I mean, this one, it's been a tough ride for us, really. We've continued to fall. We're making brand new lows, I mean, local lows. We haven't been this low. If I put it on the daily, just for context, we closed yesterday at 218, 219, give or take. We haven't done that since 219. It's going to be this candle here, 9th of April. So that is, we are still making lows in this downtrend. Today, a good day so far, but, we're $12 up after falling $85. I'm not sure we're patting ourselves on the back just yet. Argument could be made, and I'll show you in the other charts later on, that we did get to that 215, 214 level I talked about. Maybe I was being greedy of just and the Japanese news was holding me from going back in. So I haven't, I must admit that. But, I've been out for a while. There's still a sizable element for this to climb back up and me to still make some. So I'm sitting on my hands at the moment. I'm not trying to rush to any judgments. Positive to see a 6% rise on the day so far. Of course it is. But in the context of the last week, maybe we would due some sort of bounce. So we'll go into those ones in a bit more detail, as always, of course. Right, this one looks a little bit messy. I accept that. But I'm on the weekly time frame. Matter of fact, what I'll do, because it is messy, let's just get rid of this one and let's get rid of this one. We'll just draw them from scratch, shall we? So I think there's a bullish case of where we currently find ourselves in the realm of where we find ourselves. This is a trend line, and yeah, okay, it's not perfect in the bottom in 2023, but it's as near damn as I can. I mean, I'm taking it from a weekly time frame off the bottom of a wick from a massive fall back in March 2020. But you can actually see, even from March 2020, up for the bull market, then down for a correction. And then as we've moved out through this, actually, this is holding out fairly well. And we haven't really had an opportunity to retouch this until now. And we're getting close. We haven't hit it yet. But that sort of support level, where we currently find ourselves, is in and around that 80K level. So even if we do have that flush down here, there's historic major support in which we can ultimately get a kick from. Now, we lose that. It's a bit of a different conversation. And going back to what we talked about on Tuesday, apologies, we're in, unfortunately, a bit of no man's zone. At the time, I think we were down at about 84. But the reality of it is, until we lose 80, there's no real indicator that we should get out. And unfortunately, until we get above 93, and you'll see that a little bit later, it's kind of difficult to get too excited. But it doesn't mean that we need to just knee-jerk reaction out of the markets right now. We've kind of felt the pain if you haven't taken a side step on Bitcoin already. You might as well hold out and wait for that confirmation. And we find ourselves still within that position, despite a positive 3% move on the day, $2,500. We'll talk about that in a moment. Now, if I get rid of this line here, there is another positive line that we can be talking about. You sort of, again, I'll zoom in after I've sort of drawn it, but ultimately, excuse me, coughing, I need to have a drink. We're kind of picking up the tops from 21, then we sort of roll through, turned into resistance around about March of 24. Then we see that actually in the tariff of April of this year, comes back down, corrects from it. And then actually what we've seen on November last month, we came down, we touched it, but we bounced strongly from it. And again, clear sign that this is a major level in terms of TA support and resistance. And at the moment it's holding support. And so again, until we break that level, there's no real reason to be in that panic. If I just, no, press that. And I think I've just gone and what's happening here? There we go. Sorry, press Z and it gets rid of, I need to change that hotkey. If I press Z, it gets rid of my camera on the screen. Anyway, some people may prefer that. Then if we kind of have a look at, okay, well, what is this range that we are in? And I'm just deliberately staying on the weekly at the moment, trying to keep this as big picture as we ultimately can. We have a look, where do we want to, I mean, I think we have to draw this one. I'm not saying we're going to touch it, but I think this one is peak of the last cycle, plenty of activity in terms of resistance during that sideways action back in, almost the spring and summer of last year. But getting a bit closer to home, and I will zoom in now. I think in reality, where do I want it? I'm trying to think where's the best to take this from. 80,000 is the base, but certainly the top side, I would be having one here. And looking in at that, I suppose this is a fair level. There's an argument to be made. I think I originally drew it here. Let's get rid of this one for now. Just because we've got that block there, and then we have actually come down and bounced off this one fairly well. So if we talk about that range there, this is the range that we're kind of in. And this is this no man's land we're sort of talking about. Unfortunate that we are, because we haven't seen a really strong sustained move from the base level at 86,400. And we have seen some pretty strong rejections in and around that $93,000 level. So we've just got to either buy our times and wait for that movement up there, or just be prepared should we lose it and close below certainly on the weekly, that we have to consider where that's going. You then sort of tie into that, which is again why I am just a bit more cautious than previous. We are still within, I mean, only 2 days ago now, but we're still in our 6th week of below the 50 EMA, the weekly time frame. That is moving down. It's not moving down that fast, but we haven't come close to touching it since we lost it. We've not had that moving in there. And I get it. We can talk about tree shakes. We can talk about selling. We can talk about all of that kind of stuff. Absolutely. But the reality is that we haven't seen the buyers step back in to even attempt to get anywhere near that 50 EMA. And I dare say, I mean, maybe I'll be wrong, but I dare say that 50 EMA is going to present some sort of barrier for us. Just how strong it is in terms of support. Now it's flip resistance, unless we come in with a huge amount of volume. I just see that, and breaking through it with a green vector candle and all the lights, I see that as a very difficult challenge to do on the first attempt. What would be nice, I suppose, is, and just drawing it from here, is we see that move up, it hits this, we come back, we stay above 93, and we go again. And we get some sort of, Kobo, if you will, off the 93 level, proving that that's now flipped to support, and we can start to go again. And then, it's game on. And hey, next week is the start of that Santa rally. So it's a bit of a weird week in terms of traditional markets. It's going to be light. I think there's only actually 2, maybe 2.5 days worth of trading. Monday, Tuesday, maybe a little bit on Wednesday, before obviously markets close Thursday, Friday. And we might see a tiny bit through the week in between Christmas and New Year. But let's face it, we have bank holiday. Maybe we won't have a bank holiday on Monday, now I think about it. But it's that weird time when nobody knows what day of the week it is. So we might get some light trading through there, which may help or hinder Bitcoin. I think it's just, we just got to take that with a pinch of salt, what we see in that one. Going on to some smaller time frames, and we're on the daily time frame now. We've got all of the indicators that we usually have, and let's just have a look at where we're seeing things. And this is the path, the journey that we have experienced. We can kind of see, I mean, I've talked through it before, but the bounce off the 800 EMA, and then you can kind of see definitely a potential. That has to be the double bottom. This can't be the W anymore, because price action came down and closed below. But that doesn't mean that can't be. It doesn't mean it can't be. What do we need to prove it, everybody? Yep, we need to get above. I mean, the waistline of this double bottom and the 50 EMA in the daily time frame, pretty much the same, 94,000. Unless we break 94,000, I know I've just added an extra 1,000 on there, but now we start to zoom in a little bit, we can see a bit more detail. Until we get above 94,000, I will play the volatility within that move up there. But unless we get above 94,000, I'm not really buying that we have, bottomed yet. And that's not necessarily leaving a lot on the table, because there's opportunities to get in. And the interesting thing we've had is actually the last 2 days and today, I suppose, we have seen massive moves north on the market opening, only to be immediately rejected. So both last couple of days, we have, we've ranged from, let me just draw it out. So 2 days ago, it was a $5,000 swing, nearly 6% move, up to the 20 EMA, rejection. Then if we have a look at yesterday, get someone here, another $5,000 swing, another just shy of 6%, and a massive rejection again. And where do we see price today? All we've done actually is just get to the 10 EMA. We haven't broken past that yet. And so even if we want to just sort of say, right, from a really local point of view, can we get above the 20 EMA? Well, we've ventured up to it twice before, but we've had very stern rejections from that. When we get on the 4-hour time frame, you're going to see the vectors that creates. Obviously, they've been recovered, which we know vector candles like to be recovered when we're ranging. So perfect. Have we left any vectors in our wake from this move up is the next question. But for me, daily time frame, that's kind of where I'm seeing it right now. Depending on how the market reacts, this is either a bottoming. I know this is like the worst analysis you can possibly imagine, but this is either a bottoming pattern we're going to get up. What we got to do, as I say, strength through that 50 EMA, close above it, build from support, take out this vector, away we go. But if we don't, everyone's just going to point to the most obvious bear flag we've had, and this move back down. And we've talked about potential levels, 70,000, etc., that could take us to. What I would say in our defense is if the 50 EMA is a very strong resistance, the 800 EMA. That's got to be broken too. So, we tried. We couldn't stay below it for long. So yeah, I think 82 300 closed below there. Bad problem, but we had it down it. We've seen a wee bounce strong from this before. So that was a $14,000 bounce from the last time we tried to breach that. So yeah, don't get too disheartened if we do come down there, and certainly don't be selling at 82,294. Give yourself a little leeway either side. We drop it down onto the 4-hour time frame. Sorry, I should say at the bottom, I'm sure all of you know what this is, but I've just put the RSI on because when I was looking at Tau, given how it's fallen, I've just not taken it off, but it has been overextended. I mentioned overextension on Discord and someone asked me what it was, and I thought, well, we can go through it a little bit later on, but it's on here. Not really too much to say for Bitcoin on the daily time frame, kind of moving sideways, building out from a low that created on the 21st of November. You'd expect that. We drop down to the 4-hour time frame. I'll just shrink this a little bit so you've got a bit more of the screen. So these are these moves up that we talked about last couple of days. So we had market open on Wednesday, bang, smack straight back up. Green vector candle, immediately lost, recovered, and actually we plummeted further. We built up to take out the pink and green vector candle, formed a green ourselves, and then market opening again. Well, just after market opening yesterday, massive red vector candle. Look what we've gone and done. We've recovered the red vector candle almost to the dollar. I mean, we've got a tiny little range of about $200 we've left, but actually now we're on the 50 EMA. Makes sense that we've recovered a strong red vector candle like that, but what's holding us back is the 50 EMA again. We haven't been able to get above that. We're losing time before the market opens. Where could we possibly go? So again, even on the 4-hour time frame, I need to see us, clearing this and holding above the 50 EMA, something we've not managed to do for a week now, and get and start to build across it. We've just been knocked down every time we've come up here. So we've been here twice in the last 2 days, well, 3 times you include today. We've never managed to get above it. So this is the volatility I'm talking about. For those of you that like to play swings, you've had that move up, a very sudden move back down, that move up again, sudden move back down, that move up again. Potential of 5 trades there. Now, I imagine psychologically that is very hard push for you to have been able to get out of a trade and immediately short it and then get to a bottom there, immediately think it's going to turn around. That is so fast that that's happening. It's difficult to do, but it certainly creates that uncertainty, that volatility, that tree-shaped mentality we're kind of talking about. And it causes confusion. We have no real discernible pattern where it's going. It is generally on the 4-hour trending down, but actually on the bigger picture, we're just going sideways. And so that makes it difficult for us. We've been in a low position for a while. Fear and greed is building. Everyone's getting on edge a little bit. I see the comments in the Discord. It is difficult. And this is how it feels. I mean, the clickbait title that I used, is it time to admit to the bear market? I do confess that is a clickbait title. I'm not ready to give in yet, but we have fallen greater than 20%. We have been down here now for 11 weeks. We've been down since our all-time high, and we've looked no clearer to be getting back towards it. If we weren't trying to spin up the narrative of QE on the cards, of 5-year cycles, of everything else, by now we might have actually been like, oh, you know what? Do we need to give in? Do we need to actually suggest that we have had that blow off top, that we have managed to get to the other side, and actually I can't get this chart up. So many charts. And I've got to find it now. Yeah, that we're actually in that complacency sort of phase. We do it every cycle. We did it in 2017 with the ICOs. We did it in 2021 with 100K on the corner. And we're pushing the narrative right now that actually we're moving into a 5-year cycle. And I'm not going to even comment right now whether I believe that or not. It doesn't necessarily matter. What is mattering is we are trying to justify where the next climb is. And I don't think we'd have to do much justification of this side. Not when we're going up. Justification normally comes here, in my mind. And from a psychological point of view, that's when people are trying to justify. It's when we're on this side of the equation. So I'm hoping, again, I hate that word, I'm hoping with this side, of course. But I'm just trying to filter everything out, see if we're the other side. Don't need that one. So back to this one here. What I would also say, get above the 50. Where's our path? Obviously, we've got a vector, but we've got this 200 EMA, which is basically not exact, but basically the 50 EMA on the daily time frame. So we've got that to fight, and then you can kind of see there are vectors for we can get back to in around that 94 level, but it's going to be a difficult fall. I'm just wondering if I go back onto the daily, hide a bit of this so it's not as much noise. Get rid of that. Oh, there's two there. What are the levels for fibs? Okay, so 89,500, which is where we've been bouncing from last couple of days, is obviously a key level. I was kind of thinking this might be at 94, but it's actually at 95.6, starting to get into those golden zones. But okay, that's something to certainly look at. I mean, we have been reacting, and this 236 level, it's not a bad level. I mean, I'm sure I could draw this neater, but I think you'd be hard pushed to not suggest that all of this action around here, kind of gives some sort of credence to that 89,500, 90,000 kind of level. There's plenty of support and resistance from that one. So yeah, break of that is going to help validate where we're going, obviously, but you can kind of see some other barriers in our way of what we need to get through. So that fib, I just did wick to wick if you want to replicate it. Okay, let's get rid of that. We'll drop down onto tau. I did promise the wife 30 minutes, but it's obviously going to overrun. So yeah, pray for me after this call. So let's get on to BitTensor, daily time frame. And this is the picture, and this is, why I'm perhaps not so pumped. It's been a waterfall this week. It really has. Last 7 days, 7 days ago, we were at 300. Actually, 7 days ago, we were at 306. So we've fallen $90. So, pretty much 33% in the last week. Yeah, 30%. And this was the point I was trying to make with the RSI. And you can go across on multiple levels of this, multiple timeframes. But we were down in oversold territory, So I think we're due a bounce. There's a vector there to kind of help us as well. But I can't. I'm sorry. I just can't get excited whenever we get this bounce. We can't fall $100, recover 15, and think that was a good move. That's just not how it works. We can try and convince ourselves that's a good move. We're still $85 down from where we were a week ago, even with this recovery. So we can't get too excited. We've had a vector for once, finally. Something for us to aim towards. But it takes us right into the 10 and the 20 EMA, which has beaten us over the head since the middle of November. Pretty much, there we go. What's it? First time we rejected, 7th of November. So for the last 5 weeks, we have just been controlled by this 10 and 20 EMA. And so what have we got to do? To get back to parity from where we were a week ago, we've got to continue the climb up. So nice V-shaped reversal through the 10, which has controlled us. The 20 has absolutely knocked us down. And then we've got to get through the 50, which is at 305. And then if we want to get past the Gandalf line, which is the thing that's held us back for a month, that's the 800 EMA as well. There's a lot of work to do on the daily time frame for us to get there. I'm still out. Maybe I was being a bit greedy. I was looking at this zone and I thought maybe I might be able to get in a little bit lower, but we just nipped into it at 215. So that's something to consider. But unfortunately, now it's time to talk about it. It's that level there. It's 160. That wick. It didn't happen on every exchange, so I've drawn the line on. But that wick down to 160 did occur on some exchanges. That is a red vector candle. There is something down there. We may see some relief for a few days, but my worry is that that's where we head towards. That's the reality of it. And so I'm going to sit on my hands and just see how BitTensor plays out. We get down to 160, I'll be happy to buy again. That'll be a hell of a move in terms of an uplift. And then, we'll try and find some more suitable entries on the way back up. But that's kind of where it is. Let's move that away. Let's get down to sort of lower time frame. And just keep an eye on the RSI as we drop down onto the 4 hour. Because you can actually see it has been such a sustained fall. We spent an awful lot of time down in the oversold territory. I don't know how low we got down to, about 18 maybe, 15, 16 we got down to. So yeah, we were due an opportunity to get back up. Doesn't guarantee that we have to go all the way back up here, but there's a fair chance we might see a little bit. Oh, my mum's ringing me. Of course she is. Well, we'll just have to send her to. I would answer it, but I'm not gonna. It's distracting me though. So we could see some sort of recovery. Let this reset a little bit, but really, it's how the price action matches that, because this could climb up quite rapidly, and we still don't make too much of a recovery. And now we look at this. I'm going to shrink this down again. Don't need that much. I just want to show it was oversold. You can kind of see again 10 EMA 4-hour time frame now, still controlling the narrative, the movement back. What have we done for this bounce to get us back out of the oversold territory? We've just gone back to the 10 EMA. So we've normally gone back to, but always get rejected for. Not always, but being continuously rejected from this entire week. We have vector candles that we can look to recover, which is good to see. And if we can break and stay above the 10 EMA, then the 20 EMA is what we'd target anyway, obviously, but we've also got some vector candle recovery to take us into that zone. But even this, 50 EMA here, 260, that's going to fall. By the time we actually look to interact with it, unless we see a stellar pump, we're probably going to be talking around about 250. So that battle we need with the 50 EMA and volume has to happen in and around that 50 EMA. So I expect some sort of bounce, but until we actually see a sustained break of these EMAs, I will continue to remain bearish. And I don't want to steal Alan's thunder here, but I'm just wondering if there's a hell of a channel that we're currently in. He's going to draw it much better than me. So look out for the trading thing. But maybe I'd probably draw it that. Maybe we've just broken out of it. Oh, I wonder if Alan's back in. I'm sure he'll tell us soon. But yeah, maybe there's something there to be had. I don't know. Maybe we can draw that. We'll put it on the hourly. We'll see how this looks a little bit better. Maybe. I am stealing this thunder. I apologize, Alan. This is your thing, but take it as a compliment. So I think that's a fairly decent channel in terms of support and resistance. We have kind of broken out of it. 50 EMA on the 1 hour though has rejected fairly cleanly there. So maybe just looking for a retest of this channel before we break through it. But again, now we're down the lowers. We have left some vectors behind. Maybe we get an opportunity to come back in here to deal with that. So certainly something to consider there. I don't think the picture really changes. All I would say is if I do bring up the RSI again, you can kind of see on these moves down. And there is some sort of bullish divergence, you could argue, because this is going up while price is going down. So we were now expected to see some sort of break of this trend, which we have now seen. So, and that could continue, absolutely. RSI doesn't really give us any indication from that in terms of divergences, but we have that there. Anyway, that's kind of where that one is. I said I'd talk about Pippin. I will get into Pippin because I missed it on Tuesday, and I've missed it in general. So this is Pippin. I mean, talk about one that's just defied the market. It's a little bit like Zcash, but we haven't had that pullback yet at the moment. This was a cent 2 months ago. It's now at 35, and it's been up at 40 odd. So there's a 40x in the last 2 months if we'd been looking for this. And Reese, to be fair to you, you have called it out a couple of times. So well played to you. I've seen you commented that you've been significantly up. So again, well played there. Please do yourself a favor and pay yourself a little bit, but well done nevertheless. So having a look at this daily time frame, I mean, the moves have been pretty sharp. This is what I talk about being overextended. We've had strong moves up without really major pullbacks. I mean, we actually did this on the log on the linear side. Then we can actually see just how strong this has been. Now we have come back to the 20 in May, but we haven't really touched the 50. We can see on the RSI there is a bearish divergence on this. Okay, so bearish divergence. The RSI is getting lower despite the price going higher. So there's an element of sentiment, tiring, etc. Could we be in for a major correction? And a major correction here, if it could half its value, get down to 17 cents, still be a hell of a trade if you got in early, come back down to the 50 EMA. So it is difficult. Should go all in on subnets. Yeah, I'll come back to that in a second. So yeah, looking at this on the daily time frame, difficult one here, because I do believe there is a cabal of people that are helping to move this up, which I would love to know who they are and how you get access to that alpha, but we'll still dig on that one. Come back, every time it's come back to the 10 and 20 EMA, to be fair to it, it has continued to pump. And so you're like, right, if you're going to trade this, if you're going to do it perp trade, I'd go with light risk, okay? Light risk, low leverage, because we could see that correction, and that correction is monstrous. That's the reality of it. Oh, I'm doing the wrong thing here. You know, this is it on the linear chart. To get back to that 50 EMA, that's how far it has to fall. The logarithmic does kind of sort of, you know, convinces you it's not that far, but actually it would be a really big fallback down there. You know, even at 5x, you'd get wiped out pretty quickly. So just take that one with a pinch of salt. Put it back on linear because it's just easier to look at. But we can see daily time frame. There's a cluster of price action here, which if it is due a pullback, and this thing is defying the market, so don't think that it has to, come back down, touch the 50 EMA, back within that element there. Let's throw a fib on it just to see what this does. We'll do wick to wick just because it's such a strong move. I got excited with that yellow line, but it's not part of it. Okay, that's not paying off there. Fibs aren't really giving us too much to go from. You know, it's tying in with the bottom. Get rid of that. The bottom of this range action here, the 382. I suppose the 200 EMA touching the 618, but daily time frame, I think that's a difficult one to trade, just because the way it slips. How far it could potentially fall, difficult to get in. Doesn't mean we can't get in. We just have to go down to a lower time frame to kind of see where we're at. It's looking a little bit better, you know, playing around with the 50 EMA on the 4-hour time frame, not too bad. There is a very strong vector candle here, which has been partially recovered, but that will be fully recovered back down at around about 22 cents with the 200 EMA. I still think 5x would probably take your liquidation point down to around about 22. So you might even have to go lighter there or just wait for an entry. But the point being that actually the 50 EMA has really proven very strong for this. It is ranging here at the moment. I think there's an opportunity to at least position in the laddering of longs if that's what you want to do, and try and sort of, you know, capture some sort of movement. And even these breaks down, they, you know, I'll zoom in so you can see it. You know, we fell down here, bought back up. We reattempted it, aggressively bought back up, and then it sort of come along. We're going a bit flatter now on this, but as I say, it is building a nice bit of support there. I'd just be cautious of that vector and an opportunity, just with the daily and the 4-hour tying that in. I don't know the 1 hour. I appreciate it's probably only Reese looking at this, but he asked for it, so he gets it. Let me just get rid of this now. I don't know. This is, you know, 1 hour. We are in a downturn. I mean, we're actually down 4% today compared to the rest of the market, but that's not a surprise given, you know, other things have probably been pushed or profits taken and moved into. It's flirting with the 200 EMA, but you can't really tell. But if you look at it, the 200 and the 10 are pretty much on top of each other, and the 50 and the 20 are not that far behind. You know, in the space of 3 cents, we have got the 200, the 10, the 20, and the 50. Sadly, all of them are above us. So what we want to see, market open or whenever, is a strong green candle getting through some of those and then building from support. Quickly just go daily time frame on a couple of the other ones. I am in a lot of trouble, 40 minutes already. So this is where we found ourselves from Tuesday. I must have left this doodle on. Battling that 800 EMA. We've lost it over the last couple of days. We recovered above it, but 10's holding us back. I will say, similar to Bitcoin though, daily time frame, we are making at least higher lows, potential for W formation. This one technically could still have that as a W formation, and this is a consolidation period. But I think we'll go with the overall narrative of until we lose 2,800. You know, we've got a fairly good base here. Neckline, it's an ugly burst up, isn't it? Oh, that is difficult to find a clean neckline there. I wouldn't be particularly happy with that one, but it's probably the best you can get. Let me just get all of the other doodles off. You know, you've got it did get above it, but it wicked down fairly quickly. It rejected from the 200 EMA. I think you lifted any higher and it doesn't really give. Well, I suppose you could argue that this is the right hand, this is the left hand side still. and that is just happens to be, we just haven't had that second side of it. Okay, 3,300, 3,200, whichever one you take your fancy. It's that journey there, but the 800's kind of helped us a little bit, but we got the 10, the 20, and the 200 and the 50, sorry, in our way. Very little vectors over the last 2-3 weeks. Just standard volume, nothing really to magnetize any journey either way. So just be careful with that one. Solana just dropping, a bit like the rest of the alts really, but majority alts, should I say, a bit like Tau, continuing down. Good day today, but it's been fairly lackluster and down for the majority of it. And unlike Bitcoin and Ethereum, we are making lower lows. I mean, we've been making lower lows since September. Link. I mean, it's battling this 1204 level at the moment. Bit of support, I suppose. Not sure what that vertical line is. We'll get rid of it for now. So maybe a bottoming pattern here, but you know, it needs to do something. It needs to. These vectors need to continue through this. It isn't. So I'm just very similar opinion, unless a Pippin or a Zcash pops up. Zcash itself, it's about, you know, it's had a tough time last couple of weeks, and they have been difficult falls. You know, 700 down to 300, but actually it was $30 not so long ago. So in the grand scheme, we just come back to the 50 EMA, and we're kind of just battling in around, ranging from it. This market moves again. I think this one pops off again, in my opinion. XRP, we finally hit the 800 EMA we talked about. We finally got through that vector. We covered that one there, forming our own. But again, you know, lower, constantly lower since September. So we may see a relief up to $2, but unless we see a breakthrough that, and we can't really get excited again. I mean, the same picture is across everything. Can't get excited until we get across the 50 EMA. It's the same with Bitcoin. You know, we're still in that downtrend, and I reiterate what I said on Tuesday. And I'm not necessarily bothered if you find that confusing, just to reiterate that. You know, I hope you do at least take on board what I'm saying. I'm not here to totally contradict everything else you're doing, but I can only report what I see. And the reality of it is that price action needs to prove to us that we're not in a bear market. And until it does, I'm just going to remain cautious. That's it. You know, I'll tell you when I'm fully out, but I will just continue to remain cautious. So that's that there. Bitcoin dominance we've kind of gone through. Others, I mean, others is, you know, outside of the top 10, just falling. USDT dominance is going up, which, you know, usually happens when we're in areas of concern, you know. So, periods of pullbacks. Where's the last bear market one? So yeah, May, you know, shot up in May as everyone got out of things. Then it reset over the summer back to the all-time high, and then bang, started to climb out through a bear market. You know, not saying we're at bear market levels, but if you actually look at dominance, we don't chart this one enough, I don't think. Actually, now I'm looking at it. Oh, what have I done? Let's get rid of that. Let's put it on the weekly. I mean, we're at a pretty important level here in terms of dominance. Previous times we've hit this level, it has been recovery time. Tying in with what we're saying with Bitcoin right now, hitting those major support levels, we need to see, well, a bounce, in inverted commas, a drop in USDT dominance. We want to be seeing this strong move back down that will rejuvenate alt season and get some movement there. But we're not at, oh my God, it's over levels. But, you know, you think about, no, that's not relevant. Okay, that's that there. I can hear rumblings outside. NAS, ever so slightly up, but not fully open yet. Same with the S&P. Did make its all-time high this weekly. Now let's get back onto the daily. Just battling that 50 EMA and back in the NAS. Just again, battling that 50 EMA. We talked about that potential double top. I'm not saying it is at the moment. You know, until we significantly lose the 50 EMA, I think we can give ourselves a pinch of salt there. Gold doing its thing. Didn't quite get its all-time high yesterday, but it was pretty darn close. Silver is having a little bit of a pullback, but it has been on a rip. And when I say pullback, it's down $1. I mean, it's not exactly a huge amount there. And I still stand by even if it falls to 50, people say the sky is falling, but the reality of it isn't. It's not. It's overextended. We have been ripping up without a significant pullback. We need something, and it wouldn't be a bearish sentiment to have that. Some of the other ones in pre-market, let's just have a look where we are. Coinbase. Oh, wait a second. Let's do it on this chart. I'll tell you why, because it gives you the pre-market stuff. So Coinbase maybe opening up, but again in a downward trajectory right at this base here. You know, we lose 235, and you know there's a question of what's really holding us up down to 200 maybe. Circle, it's kind of feel like, oh, I feel like I can hear a kid crying. Right, let's wrap this one up. MicroStrategy maybe opening up, but down. Nvidia's looking all right. They're definitely crying. We're gonna have to go. Palantir is looking good and strong. Tesla's looking strong. QUTS looking okay. Right, guys. Market's going to open in about an hour. Just keep an eye on that. I'm not guaranteed. All we know for certain is the Japanese interest rates have increased. Previous times that has caused some volatility in the market. Give it some time to play out. Position yourselves as you see fit. I'm still winning the market at the moment, with the exception of the sidestep on BitTensor. Other than that, guys, have a great weekend. I'm wrapping this up as quick as I can to get it knocked on the door. I will obviously be on Discord. I'll speak to you all soon. And yeah, have a good weekend. Cheers now.